Recently, I've had the amazing pleasure of being forced to live without the internet while moving house. And because I straight up refuse to go outside, I've just been staring at my browser for the better part of a week. So in case you don't know, if you use a Chromium-based browser with no internet, there's a little Easter egg where this little dinosaur can actually turn into a simple jumping game. And being that I literally have nothing else to do, I thought, why not build it in Minecraft? Because the alternative is scary. So if my plan is to make that Google dinosaur game, this was the general plan I was thinking in my head. As you can see, we have our representation for the dinosaur being this black rectangle thing, and then we have like the cactuses and birds which you have to dodge being represented by magma cubes. I was thinking what we could do is we have a platform up here where the player stands, and occasionally they hit a note block, and when we hit it, that makes the dinosaur jump up and down. Getting all these like obstacles to move right to left on this board, that's definitely going to be the hardest part. Now my idea to accomplish this is actually using a nifty trick you can do with water. You see, if you have stairs built into the ground which are already waterlogged, when you place water next to it, it only flows into that, sort of making a flat surface. So what we can do by placing all of these is we sort of have a conveyor belt surface of just water. Now if we were to place something such as a boat, you can see how it smoothly glides across. Now, a problem we're going to have with using boats as the obstacles is once they've moved from right to left, we need to put them all the way back round so that we can reuse them. So what I've made is a little bit of a loop. Once the boat travels along here, it falls down onto this surface, and then it goes back into a bubble elevator. God damn it, I thought that was a good take then. It travels into a bubble elevator, goes all the way up to the top, and then it repeats the process. Interestingly, we can also lock the boats and stop them from moving simply by putting a glass block, and if we lever it, we can actually have it move on, so we can control when we send boats, which is good for later. But now the obvious issue is, well, this doesn't look like the Google dinosaur game very much, like boats as obstacles looks kind of dumb to me. Don't worry, I've thought about it. What we can actually do is on the top layer, we can have a bunch of scaffolding. So what we can actually do is we can grab a creeper and place it in the boat, so now when it travels up, the creeper head just ever so slightly peaks up. So if we look at this downwards, that's our sort of representation for the cactus. By the way, I chose the creepers because I thought they sort of looked like cactuses. I did originally think maybe I should use medium slimes in boats because they have kind of a larger hitbox which will play into the design later, but unfortunately they're not that tall, so when we actually put the scaffolding across, they simply just weren't tall enough to break through, which sucks because I love these dudes. Like, look at him in the boat. You can't drive that silly. You don't have hands. Now before I get into the next bit of the design, I have to give a huge shout out to YouTuber Toasty or Toasty or Toasty, I'm not sure. Either way, I have to give a huge shout out because I just found this guy's channel, right? And it is one of the coolest redstone things I've ever seen. Like, I'll show some of these videos on screen. This whole design is basically inspired by him because he made like the really cool version of Pong in Minecraft. A design he used in his Pong is this little nifty gadget over here. Using glow lichen, we can actually suspend a water block, and if you don't know, mangrove roots can be waterlogged by dispensers with water buckets. What this means is when we hit this button, water is dispensed into it. However, this has a very interesting effect on the water above. As we can now see, it's actually flowing towards the water block we've just dispensed. This is seriously cool because we can actually use this to our advantage. For example, if we have a boat on top, we can actually dispense water on this one and we can move it. This is how we're going to implement the jumping of the dinosaur. What we have over here is 3 of those little modules I just showed you in a row. What this sort of means with our boat in this little trap chamber is this is like a little conveyor belt we can activate one way or the other. As we can see, currently the water's activated in the left chamber for all of these little modules, meaning that the water is flowing towards the left. However, we actually have some rails below and observers looking at them, so when we activate these rails and turn them on, the observers pulse and they flip and change the water, so now it's going to the right, and it moves the boat over to the right. So with a flick of a lever, we can send this boat to the left or to the right. We've now hooked this circuit up to a pulse extender over here, so when I hit this observer, we can see that it will activate to the right briefly before going back to the left. You will also notice that we have a lead attached to the boat. Now this is very stretched, but over on the top we have this attached to an armadillo. Due to the lead being really stretched, the armadillo actually can't move. He's permanently stuck in place. However, he is bound to the movement of the boat. So if we actually hit this note block where I've hooked it up to on top, we can see that he's going to move to the right and then to the left. We can make him jump! We've implemented a jump! You know how I mentioned earlier how we can block the boats with glass blocks and pistons? This is how we're going to do it, basically. We have a backlog of creepers in boats back here, and what I actually have is a randomizer with a sword and a redstone dust. Because swords are non-stackable, when they are ejected into the hopper, they give off a stronger signal strength. So if we hit this button, we can see that a random glass block will pull up, and only one of the creepers is ejected, and then that goes up. If we hit it again, we might see the other one. No, come on, help the viewers. No, I don't get unlucky, I swear this works. No, come on. Oh my god, this is really really? Okay, there we are. That's like a 1% chance of happening. And then we have the high creeper going across like this. So what we can then do is hook this randomizer up to a clock, which is over here. So then when we activate this clock, we'll get a randomly generating obstacle course. So what I've gone and done is just taken those two previous systems, being the jumping mechanism and the course randomizer, and just combined them into one big circuit. I have also added collision detection. You see, we actually have another lead dangling from our player Armadillo to this little poor armadillo over here who is permanently suspended in the air. However, if I were to actually activate the game, so if I hit this armadillo will fall down to the ground, meaning that we can now play him and jump. You'll see that this armadillo is now suspended by these pressure plates. When this armadillo is actually hit by a creeper, you'll notice the one below shunts down into these pressure plates, and that activates this little redstone block, which then puts it back into the off-game state. Meaning, that's how we actually do collision detection. From this point, the only thing the game is really missing is a way to actually score points. And this was surprisingly super easy to actually implement. What I've done is just added a tripwire on this back wall. So if I send a boat on its way, just as a bit of a demonstration, we have a creeper going up. As that goes to the board and the armadillo successfully jumps over it, it will actually fall down and hit this tripwire over here. Now, if the game was actually active, and I remember to actually pull this piston, we can see that when I actually activate this tripwire, it goes through this granite block and plays a little jukebox, and then it goes up to a chest over here. So, as we can see, we've scored 3 points, and that's it. That's it for the score counter. But with that, the game should be fully working. The only thing left to do is to demonstrate it. Okay, so to start the game, we just hit this note block, and now it's just our job to survive as much as we can. Okay, so we've got our first obstacles. Okay, or we will actually have to jump over this one. Okay, no, go down. Oh, I can't believe that I failed immediately. Oh man. Okay, I gotta give it a better shot than that. What's interesting about this as well is if we use commands, we can actually increase the tick rate. So if we make it 40, for example, we can actually play the game even faster as a bit of a difficulty mode. Not survival friendly, but it is something you can do. So now it's, okay, so we'll jump down. Okay, this feels a lot more like the actual game. Oh, okay, I got a bit of a streak going. Sick. Okay. The points are raking in, baby. Oh, no, I was too slow on the jump. Damn it. How much did I get? Hey, 34. That's not bad. Unfortunately, the one issue with using armadillos as the player character is they poo all over my minigame. Ah! As always, the schematic will be available as a download on my Discord as a schematic. I guess I just couldn't go one video without abusing an animal, could I?